Good morning, everybody. It's Taylor. I have a story for you today, and it's one I hope you guys like. It's one from my own experience as a teenager. So there's a lot of bad decisions in it. The story is about the Puce Goose. The Puce Goose was the first car that anybody in our friend group bought and that we were able to really drive around in as friends. And so it was a 1981 Honda Accord, and it was this really awkward shade of green that we called Puce. And so we named it the Puce Goose after its color. And we took it everywhere. I mean, this drove all of our friends back and forth from school, and anytime we went on adventures, it was almost always in the Puce Goose. And one day after school, we decided that we wanted to go on another adventure, and we were driving around back behind where we lived, and we found these old dirt bike trails. And we decided that the Puce Goose, because it was such a great car, a 1981 Honda, that it could handle those trails. And so we started driving around on those dirt bike trails, and it was really fun. And we came to this part when we lived up on a hill, and so as we were coming down, it kept getting steeper and steeper. And I remember being in the back seat and having to put my hands on the seats in front of me because I was falling forward just from the steepness of the incline that we were on. And we finally come out from the bottom that's really steep, and the trail just ended. There was nothing. And so we are looking around over here trying to figure out where we're supposed to go, and we realize that we have to try to go back up. Now, we barely made it down. There is no chance that this 1981 Honda is going to be able to all of a sudden ramp it up into four-wheel drive or some extra gear and get up this hill. We tried a couple times, and we didn't even make it a quarter of the way up. So we knew that wasn't going to work, and so we started looking around for something else. Now, we were pretty close to the main road that we needed to get to, but there was one big barrier between us and the road. And it was that when they had dug the road out, they had dug a cliff into the dirt for the road. And it wasn't big, it was probably only 10 feet high, but you don't drive cars off 10-foot cliffs, they don't do that. But we realized pretty quickly that our choices were either A, to call our parents for help, or B, that we could try to find a way to get the goose down the cliff. We went with B. And so we dug out everything we could find from the back of my friend's car, and we started just chipping away at this in the dirt and trying to level it out a little bit. I remember I had a tire iron. I'm just digging out these big rocks and throwing them out of the way. And we turned this 90-degree cliff straight up and down into what must have been a 75 or an 80-degree, very, very sharp near cliff. And we decided that that was good enough and that we were going to take it down it. And we put my friend in it, and he's driving it. And I remember my job was to stand by the back of the car, and if the back bumper started to lift up as he went over, I was supposed to hold it to the ground. And so as we start going down, it takes us really steep and immediately pivots onto the front bumper once it hits the ground on the other side. And I remember my friend looking back up at me from in there, kind of giving me this wide-eyed look like, and I just started shaking and pushing, and my brother was at the front of it, and he started doing the same, and little by little, it just kind of inched its way right out of there. And now we were 10 feet from the road. We climbed in, and we drove home, and we never had to tell our parents. Well, now we tell them because it's funny, but we didn't have to tell them then that we were dumb enough to take a 1981 on a dirt bike trail. And we used to tell our friends this story, and I remember we would drive past that spot where we carved that little trail out of the cliff in the side. And as we kept driving past it, we noticed that it was getting more and more level. And then one day we saw this group of dirt bikers and four-wheelers actually using our trail that we carved out of the cliff. And this last time I went back, they had paved the trail. So this little cliff that we dug out to get back to the main road, now it's not just like a dirt bike trail, it's actually a walking trail. Like, you can go on walks and hikes through there. People ride bikes on it all the time. So the lessons that I want to take away from this, the first is that sometimes you have to do things different in order to be happy and successful in your lives, to get where you want to be. We needed to get back to the road, which would take us home. And the way that we had came into where we were was not going to get us out. And our lives are like that so much of the time. We get ourselves into situations and we try to do it how somebody else did it. We try to live our lives like our dads did, our parents, our friends. And we just kind of run into these big hills over and over again, and we never even get close. What we need to do is to start to look around and find what our path is. Sometimes ours is the scary one. Sometimes we gotta take a cliff and we gotta turn it into a trail that we can use. But that's what can be done. Now, if we do that in our lives, it means that sometimes we're gonna have to break some rules. We're gonna have to do things a little different than people before us have done. If you look at most great leaders, they led the way they did by breaking some rules. You have to know when to break the rules. A leader is not a leader until they understand when those rules need to be broken. Martin Luther King, if you look at everything he did, he broke rules. That's what he was leading the people to do. Those rules were unjust and they were improperly placed, but they were rules that he broke. So don't be afraid to break rules, just do it carefully. Do it at the right time and in the right way. And you can find new paths that were not available to anybody before. Now, the second big takeoff is that sometimes you're going to get stuck in life. Sometimes you're going to hit a situation where you are at rock bottom. And if you can learn to see that for the opportunity it is, you can find the most direct route to where you need to be going. Life gains fulfillment when we get on the right path. So don't keep trying a path that is not yours for too long. Now, because we made that route, we shortened what would have been probably a 30-minute ride through these trees and on these dirt bike trails if we could have gotten up the hill back to the main road. And instead, it took us about 20 minutes of digging, and then we had a trail that took us there in 30 seconds. We were there. So when you hit rock bottom, look around you, think about where you are, and many times, if not the majority of the time, you'll find that from rock bottom, you are very close. You're to the path you need to be on, not to the destination, but it will put you on the path that will get you where you want to be. So don't be afraid to use that as the opportunity that it is. So the two takeaways from the legend of the Puce Goose. First is that sometimes it's good to break the rules. Sometimes it's essential for leaders to go off trail and to do something that no one's done before. And second is that when you're at rock bottom, it is a fantastic point for you to get on the path that you want to be on. Many times it's the most direct way to get on the path you need to be on for the rest of your life. So don't be afraid to make some mistakes. Don't be afraid to go off trail. And don't be afraid to be at rock bottom.